That's by. No, next.
128 times the number of pixels versus the Pocket Station, and way more than the DS. It was very much
And way more than DS.
cutting edge, and actually very similar in quality to the first iPhone's display, except 2 years even before that. And Sony really took advantage of that display. Do you remember when I said the Pocket Station had a 33 kHz CPU? Well, the PSP had dual 333 megahertz CPUs. On a very basic level, that is easily 8 times the performance of Nintendo's DS, and no joke, 20,000 times the performance of their previous console. Not to mention the PSP had a proper console controller-esque analog nub, and that this was where Sony announced their brand new media format, called the Universal Media Disc, or UMD. And this was interesting. While the competing DS game cartridges could hold an absolute max upper limit of 512 megabytes of data, UMDs, being basically like mini CDs, could hold 1.8 gigabytes. And that meant not just that developers could run wild with their games, making the PSP the very obvious real gamer's choice against Nintendo, and racking up a ton of actually big-name console-like exclusives, but it also cemented the PSP as one of the best portable movie players around. Honestly, everything about the PSP generation just excited me. Everything felt so tactile and physical, and I love that about gaming. Fun fact, this was my actual PSP carrying case that I used for my entire lifetime with the thing. These UMD discs, I thought they were the coolest thing. Like this whole ritual of flicking open the pack, of slotting in the UMD and closing it back up, it was music to my ears. And also, the fact that it could play movies meant that I so remember the feeling of browsing those Blockbuster aisles, just finding the perfect Friday night movie to watch on my PSP. Okay, so you go into the game tab and you click UMD. It's been so much time since I've heard that. One classic trope of the PSP that I'm remembering now is this scratching sound. That's the disc being read. It was all the time, but especially when you're on like a loading screen, which also used to last really long. So with subsequent consoles, when they replaced that with flash storage that was silent, it was a massive quality of life improvement. It's really hard to convey how much of an improvement this is from like the Pocket Station. You can totally see how people at the time were just blown away by this thing. Because yeah, this doesn't look quite as good as a PS2 game. It's very much got the same feel. It's got the same kind of scope in terms of the kinds of things you can do in it. The audio is also miles ahead of the Pocket Station. It's proper stereo sound. I'm getting slaughtered here. The analog stick as well is a massive quality of life improvement versus any other handheld that had existed up until this point. It actually makes big worlds like this natural to traverse. You can also so tell when you're using this original PSP that it was absolutely designed with the PlayStation 2 in mind, to look as consistent as possible so it could be the perfect companion. So yeah, all the odds were stacked against Sony when they launched, but they just so happened to create the perfect cocktail of what the world was looking for at the time. This thing far surpassed Sony's small town sales expectations, but it was still getting outplayed by Nintendo's DS. To which you might be thinking, why? We just spent 2 whole minutes talking about why the PSP was more advanced. And, well, I think it's partly the games. Nintendo had the behemoth that was Mario, which did half their job for them. I can't tell you how many school coach journeys I had where the entire activity was just a massive 8-person Mario Kart multiplayer sesh, where incredibly out of those 8 people, only one of them actually needed to own the game to do that. And partly also the price. Sony's hardware launched at nearly $400 in today's money, and that coincided with a pretty devastating Nintendo price drop to just $200 the very same year. Coincidence? I think not. So, Sony tried things. They released a bunch of hardware revisions over the near decade of the PSP's lifespan, starting with the sleeker PSP 2000, or the slim model. And this is the console I grew up with. The number of hours I sunk into this machine right here unspeakable. Nothing even comes close. And actually seeing where it comes from, this feels like a massive leap. It's gone from 23mm thick on the original to 18.6. And the way to